All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Strive College Football Reacts. Last night we had the college football playoff, but, of course, the college football offseason is in full swing at the same time. So Texas fired Tom Herman. I'm just on Twitter. I had my phone on airplane mode and turned off the Wi Fi just so I don't get woken up by the notifications. I wake up on Twitter. I see my boy Josh Pate, which I did the consultation with that I was telling you about. And I just see Texas has fired Tom Herman. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I go to 24/7 Sports and it's like they're hiring Steve Sarkisian. And I'm like, they hired a competent play caller. He's just a better version of Tom Herman. But then now you're telling me that he turned the offer down. So where are we at?
So crazy firestorm today. Obviously, Herman is out at Texas. And then the immediate question is, okay, well, what's next? Now what? What's happening? And then we get a report that Steve Sarkisian, former USC and Washington head coach and current Alabama offensive coordinator, leading the best offense in the nation by far, is the man up, next man for the job. And immediately, I'm very excited. Steve Sarkisian, great offensive coordinator. He's had a spotty history as a head coach, and has had some troubles in the past. But since he's been under Nick Saban at Alabama, he's been very successful, wildly successful, and he seems to have put a lot of those personal demons to bed. So when I heard that news, I was immediately very excited about it. You have Bijan Robinson, who, in my opinion, will definitely win Doak Walker, and I think he'll at least be a Heisman finalist before he leaves, and he'll be a top draft pick, of course, if everything goes according to plan. And then Casey Thompson, who is the next man up, as Sam Ellinger, probably not going to be coming back. He hasn't made anything official. Someone else made it official for him, but he has yet to say anything. But those two guys, promising offense, great defense with Chris Ash. Everything looks to be coming together. And then I just saw a report on Twitter that he's allegedly turned it down, or we haven't heard anything yet. It's very confusing, and I am scared.
Here's what I will say, Ryan. I think I could be wrong here, but more than likely, I think that he's going to be your head coach. Because when I'm looking at all the stuff here, like, I mean, there are legit people in college football. Like Brett McMurphy tweeted it out. Um, and this Chip Brown, 24/7 Sports doesn't mess around either. They're real legit and break stuff a lot. And that's the guy who broke it, was that Chip Brown guy. And they're very involved, and have a lot of sources inside Texas. But at the same time, in that Brett McMurphy tweet, he says at Chip Brown 24/7 reports. And then what Bruce Feldman says is I'm told that Texas has been vetting Alabama OC Steve Sarkisian and has now heard very positive reports about how he's handled himself since coming to Tuscaloosa. A potential hire of the Broyles Award could happen soon at UT. So these are very confusing reports because 2 hours ago, you've got Chip Brown saying that Steve Sarkisian is expected to be named the new coach at Texas. Then you've got Brett McMurphy saying that he will replace him an hour later, according to Chip Brown. And then you've got Bruce Feldman saying he's most likely going to go there. A potential hire of him could happen soon at UT. So you're actually right, because if Bruce Feldman is probably the guy that, above all, right, he's like the Adrian Wojnarowski of college football. So it's not official yet, but it seems like they were close. And if he turned it down, yeah, I don't know what, but I would like to say that, okay, now you're sending a tweet with me. I see and have heard that the guy at Texas now. Oh, and that's David Pollock. Oh no.
We were gonna hop on and talk about how great of a hire this is.
Wait. I'm interrupting you
Now
again. Because Josh Pate, somebody added him
go
below
for it.
this tweet, and he said anything regarding this, and he said, I believe Sark is the guy 33 minutes ago. So I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, I guess we might be sitting down to record this again later with an update.
Yeah.
But for now, how about we treat it like Sark is the guy?
Yeah.
I think it's a great hire, and I think that this offense is going to be insane next year. It already looked good because with Sam Ellinger, we know what he can do, and we know what he can't do. And what he can't do is throw a tight spiral, throw a great football, and hit his receivers in stride. Casey Thompson was doing that. What is that? What you got there?
Mac and cheese.
What you eating? Mac and cheese. Let's
Mac and
go, man.
cheese.
That looks good. Little lunch of champions action. All right. So it's not only a Strive Texas update, it's a mukbang. So there we go. All right. I'll just keep talking while you're doing your thing. But yeah, Casey Thompson looked great. I'm very excited about it. And I'm glad that Ellinger, he could have come back for another year. Glad he's not. I think that, he's had his 4 years. As a Texas fan, I'm very appreciative for everything that he's done. Time to move on. Time to pass the torch. This offense, Bijan Robinson, Joshua Moore, the offensive line has a couple question marks, but I think it'll be ready. Good, very good. I really hope that whoever's the next head coach is able to keep Chris Ash on defense, because this is the best Texas defense has looked in a long time. And, you can't argue with what Sark has been doing in Alabama. I mean, of course, that's Nick Saban, and Alabama always has the top guys, and it's not difficult to coach those guys. But actually, it is, because you look at Charlie Strong and you look at Tom Herman, and he has had a top recruiting class every year, and he cannot win. Whereas you look at Brian Kelly, who's
Les Miles became mediocre in just modern football. I mean, he was winning national championships. So
yeah, but also like look at Brian Kelly, who is, people love to hate Notre Dame. He's in the playoff year in and year out with like top 20 recruiting classes, which isn't bad, but it's not the top 5, the top 10 that he's going up against. So I don't know.
This is super interesting. So I'm making sure that I've got this right, because I'm trying to see how long he's been at Bama. Because, okay, so this was in 2019. They rehired him as the offensive coordinator. Interesting. Okay, and then he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons before that. Well, he was fired in 2018. Okay, so, but I think he might have been on the staff before he was named offensive coordinator. I'm not entirely sure. Regardless, he has really implemented that spread RPO system at Alabama. And he had some troubles last year because Tua was dealing with an ankle injury. But this thing is still super explosive. And this year, he was the architect of this year's offense. Say what you want about SEC defenses being worse this year, which I agree with. Say what you want about him having all of the stars. He's still putting up historically one of the best offensive seasons that we've ever seen. And he's the architect behind it. Yes, you've got, the crown jewels to work with at Alabama. But at the same time, this is what I really wanted to get into a conversation with you about, Ryan. So there's two things. One, he's a competent play caller. And if really you just ask him to be the play caller, I don't know if you want him to be the OC, but if he does like what Jake Spavital does. Like he's the OC, but he hires somebody else to also help him out as kind of like his passing game coordinator, basically, right? And then he's the head coach in name, but still calls the plays. Because I think he should call the plays, because when you look at all the problems that it seems like Texas has had over these past couple of years, whenever it comes to losing games and in games that they should win, is a lot of it has to do with the play calling of Tom Herman and some of the calls that he's made.
Yeah. Play calling year in and year out. Texas has a lot of problems. Play calling is always near the top. I mean, from clock management to just weird calls, it's like Texas' favorite play is just throwing under passes to players that cannot achieve success under, and just weird, like for example, there's millions of examples that come to mind, but let me just give you one. Against TCU, Keontae Ingram busts out for a 60-yard run, and they run he's gassed. They run the hurry up. They send him through the middle of the goal line, and he fumbles the football. Now he shouldn't have reached out. He was doing too much, but still, take your time. And also, you have Mr. QB Power and Sam Ellinger, and then there's some question marks on defensive play calling too. I will admit that there's question marks all over this team. But yeah, play calling has been horrible. And I don't know, but also, beyond that, Steve Sarkisian and anyone for that matter, Nick Saban guys, they're good. I mean, they're just that coaching tree is insane.
Even if like, and here's what I'm going to give you, Ryan, and I think this is all that Texas fans are asking. Like, look at Kirby Smart. Yes, he hasn't won a national championship, but is Georgia consistently competing for an SEC title and having a shot to get in the playoff? And hey, he did make the national championship once. And if he had some tape on Tua Tagovailoa, they were winning that game. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what you're kind of getting. You're getting that kind of coaching tree. And I feel like if that happened at Texas, while you guys would be probably sad that like if you're in that situation and like you had like that one shot to win and haven't been able to make it back. But at the same time, if Texas is consistently getting like in that playoff conversation, I think that that's going to be something that's y'all's standard. You know what I'm saying?
It should be. We've never been anywhere near that. And I also like about the supposed hire is that this is the first time that Texas has gone for a proven big time coach. I know he's had some issues at head coach for a Power 5 school, but Tom Herman came from Houston, and before that, I don't even know where. Uh, Charlie Strong was hired out of Louisville, and while he proved that he could be a capable defensive coordinator, coaching wasn't really his forte, which is fine. But this is Texas's first time to really go for the big one. I know there were some conversations with Nick Saban at one point years ago, and they obviously struck out trying to get Urban Meyer. But I like that they're trying to get a proven winner to come in and coach these very capable athletes.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk to you about. There are probably a handful of schools out there that can get the type of athlete that an Alabama has. And that's why that earlier, whenever we were talking about how he's got the all of the crown jewels in recruiting that to work with whenever it comes to his offense. Texas doesn't have quite Alabama players, but one, they can if they get to the level that they used to be. And two, they're going to be one of the few schools in the country that can have players like that. There's about a couple of schools like that we could name. There's Ohio State, there's Clemson, there's Alabama, there's LSU, and there's maybe I'm forgetting Georgia's probably another one. And then when you go to the Big 12, it's really Texas and Oklahoma. So and a lot of those SEC kids that they pull out of Texas would go to Texas if the program was a proven winner. That's another thing that you've got to remember. Same with kids going to Oklahoma. I mean, the majority. I mean, I think about LSU's team from 2 years ago, right? And Kerry Vincent Jr., Port Arthur, Texas, Calevon Chason, Houston, Grant Delpit, Houston. I mean, I could go on and on. To be fair, those kids evacuated from Katrina, so they originally were from Louisiana, so I'll give them that. But at the same time, you know what I'm saying? Those are players that are in-state losses. So,
Well, I mean, yeah, look at obviously a lot of Texas players go to OU, which, that's not a crazy stretch. It's just a state away, not a huge deal. But then you have
and
players like,
and they've won the Big 12
yeah,
recently. So,
well, yeah. But then you look at J.K. Dobbins, who's from Texas, and he went all the way to Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers,
Quinn Ewers is now following in his footsteps. And it's like, hold on here. And
Garrett Wilson from Lake Travis. He's from Austin.
Yeah. So Texas, getting players to come to Texas should not be difficult. It's Austin, first of all. I mean, that's great. Texas, University of Texas is one of the greatest schools in the nation. I know some players may not care about that, but it is, and that's fantastic, even if
Your
football doesn't work
facilities.
out. The facilities are all state of the art, very, very wealthy program. But I understand why they don't. Because for the past 10 years, the NFL output has been lacking. The player development has been lacking. Have been in the past 10 years, we've been to one Big 12 championship game. The other one was 2013 weird game against Baylor that ended up being kind of like a championship game, but doesn't count. Texas has been to one Big 12 championship in this decade and lost, or last decade, I guess. But it's just it's sad. It's sorry. These players, I feel bad for them. And Tom Herman has proven that he can't develop players, which is why he is fired.
Absolutely. Another thing that is interesting about Steve Sarkisian is you mentioned the NFL thing, and this is nothing crazy because he's just, I mean, he had 1 year as an NFL OC, but that's another place where he has experience with the Atlanta Falcons, and they did blow a 28-3 lead, but he also was the offensive coordinator of a Super Bowl team in his 1 year in the NFL.
And he had success against.
And it was under Kyle Shanahan. So a lot of it did have to do with Kyle Shanahan. But still, like, once again, having success in the NFL level, that's something that also can just be huge when he can give advice to some of his players. And even in recruiting, he can use that as a pitch. Like, I know what it takes in the NFL. I coached a Super Bowl. I coached an NFL Super Bowl offense. Like, so that's just another thing that he has that Herman didn't. And so I want to get into his, if you don't mind, I want to get into his like overall coaching record and kind of his history, because I feel like a lot of people that are watching this video are going to be like, okay, yeah, this all sounds fine and great, but there's like the whole like alcoholism thing and all that. So what are your thoughts on his history and how much do you know? Because I could actually give you a little bit of a lowdown if you don't.
Well, I've seen his coaching record. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. He has a winning record, but it's not very good. And I know that he has battled some demons in the past with the drink. And I also know that he is coaching the best offense in the country.
So here's what I will tell you. You remember Jake Locker
Oh God.
from
Yeah.
Washington? So
Yeah.
he was who coached him. He was the like quarterbacks coach. Interesting enough. And yes, there is the whole USC thing. But let me tell you a little bit about that UFC program during that time. So recently, about probably a month ago, I read Coach O's book, Flip the Script. And he has this whole chapter in there where he's talking about his time at USC. Remember when he was the interim and then they didn't hire him? And then they hired Steve Sarkisian. Things didn't work out. But from what I kind of got from that book, I'm not sure things would have really worked out with anybody. I mean, maybe they would have worked out with Coach O because it seemed like the players loved him a lot and all that stuff. But still, after he left in that situation, there were a lot of other things going on in Los Angeles. And Coach O is another guy who's had problems with alcohol in the past too. And I'm trying to find the best words to describe this, but it's just Los Angeles may not be the best place for people with those issues, but then also USC has had its own in 2013. I mean, it is since Pete Carroll left, they have had a lot of things that have just been ongoing that have not been fixed. And so while yes, his tenure at USC does not seem that attractive with his record and all of everything that happened. People can improve, people can learn, and sometimes not everything is just on one person. Obviously, a lot of that had to do with Steve Sarkisian, but there are a lot of other things that go on at USC that are out of a coach's control.
I don't understand why we have an idea that these coaches or players or just people in general are static, right? Like the coach that he was 10 years ago, he's not today. And look at like Nick Saban is the ultimate second chance giver. I mean, look at Baby Kiff. Now, I mean, last I checked, Ole Miss was beating up on Indiana today in their first bowl game.
And they put 48 on Bama this year.
And they put 48 on Bama this year. There you go. But I think that we should be quick to give people, not quick necessarily, but to give people second chances, show growth, development. USC has been a horrible situation for a long time. Um, and you know what? Maybe Texas, an underachieving program and an underachieving coach, are a match made in heaven.
What happened with LSU?
With LSU.
I mean, that's what Coach O was. He was an
Oh yeah.
underachieving coach, and it was an underachieving program at the time. But the only difference I would say is Sark's from like, where's he from? He's from Torres, California. So he's not from Austin, but at the same time, I mean, Herman's dream job was Texas, and we saw how that worked out. But the main thing is, like you said, people can grow and go through a lot of things in any form of life, and especially in coaching. And when you go and you study a guy like Nick Saban and you want to follow his, mentality, because that's what Coach O did. He did that, except it was with Pete Carroll. That's who he like idolizes his entire, coaching scheme off of. That's why when he has Tell the Truth Mondays, and I'm forgetting some of the other days, but there's like there's a name for every day in the week. And it's just, now that this guy's been going under Nick Saban and he's really been studying what he does and probably getting himself better and running one of the most prolific offenses in college football history. That is basically a better version of Tom Herman. I mean, that's what I'm hearing that they'd be getting. You'd be getting another offensive guru who could call the plays, but the scheme is better. It's even more applicable to the modern game with the RPOs and in the orbit screens and all that stuff. And he's just not going to call stupid plays. Because when has Alabama called a stupid play?
It's just good. Look, this team is stacked. Just go in.
You're going to have a bunch of athletes. You're going to have so many athletes at your disposal on that roster. So that's why where I feel like this could go really well, because it's not like it's a huge drop off from Alabama. You know what I'm saying?
And I don't know that this is going to be
talent, at least.
Exactly. I don't know that this is going to be a forever home, but I think he can definitely come in for however many years and win with the, I don't know how recruiting is going to go.
He's actually only in his 40s, dude.
With the roster that he has, I mean, the sky's the limit. And then we had some good recruiting classes coming in. The Herman situation kind of saw to that going away, but here we are.
It's weird, dude. He's only 46.
Really?
How old is Tom?
Tom's young as well. I wonder where Herman's gonna go. He's gonna get a head coaching job, isn't he?
Yeah, he's gonna get it somewhere.
Herman's 45.
So this guy's around Herman's age. Wow, they're around the same age. That's crazy. I thought Sarkisian was in his 50s, though. So the fact that he's still so young, that's very intriguing. Yeah, I don't know where Herman's going to go. I'm trying to, I can't even think. I'm thinking group of 5 off rip. He's going to go to Texas State.
Go back.
He's going to go back. He's going to go back to Texas State.
No,
not going to happen, but
I'm thinking either group of 5 or some crappy Pac-12 or a Big 10 school. Maybe ACC.
There was somebody who just left a Big 10 school. But yeah, I could see that too.
Illinois?
No, they hired somebody. They already hired somebody. But you're right. I think that's who I was thinking of. Yeah, I don't know who. That'll be very interesting to see where Tom Herman goes. Offensive coordinator at Alabama.
Yeah, there you go.
They just switch. Oh, Lord.
Hey, you know what? Baylor has an opening at offensive coordinator.
Baylor has an opening at head coach. I love Dave Aranda to death, but come home, buddy.
It's bad, man.
Yeah, that's that's a whole nother can of worms. But anyways, you got any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
This could all be for naught if Sarkisian does not accept the head coaching job, or this has all been just pure speculation. In which case, I'm sure we will be back with another video. But until then, Steve Sarkisian, welcome to Austin. Welcome to the Longhorns. I think it's gonna work out, buddy. I really do. And that's gonna be clipped in a couple years, and it's gonna be played to some sad music, and then some lowlights from the 2022 season where we just get spanked by Alabama, OU, Kansas. We'll see.
In 2 years.
Yeah.
Pain. I'm sorry. Welcome,
right.
welcome to my entire life
There you go.
forever, except for 1 year. All right, so thank you guys so much for tuning in to our off the rip college football reaction to Steve Sarkisian being hired at Texas. Check out the 1-0 podcast. Check out the Splash. We both dropped episodes this week. Go check it all out. Check out all the other stuff we're doing on YouTube. We're going to be making more content on here that'll be YouTube exclusive, like this video. Comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Add us on Twitter, at Jude McLaren. I know you're not on Twitter. I don't blame you, but at the Strive Network on Instagram. Comment, all that good stuff. And we'll catch you guys next time.